get to be around people that have the same problems as you. I mean, you literally talk about the same problems. Like, oh my gosh, you might be, 1,000 miles away from me, but you have the same problems as I do.
Designed to encourage, empower, and educate real estate professionals by sharing best practices from business leaders that are proven winners. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and this is Calibrate Real Estate. Broadcasting from the Mile High City. Thank you for tuning in to the Calibrate Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Malnati, and today I get to interview a good buddy of mine, Ryan Gillen from Dayton, Ohio. Ryan is with Irongate Realtors, an independent boutique, and he operates a brokerage team appropriately, if I could speak, appropriately named the Ryan Gillen Team. 9 agents, some contract workers, and a property manager. Ryan, say hello to our podcast audience.
Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm super excited because we're good buddies. We've hung out at several of our 30 Under 30 reunions. Ryan is also a Realtor Magazine 30 Under 30 alumni. And we're going to start this interview with the power of a mastermind. As we were preparing for our interview, Ryan reminded me that there are several things that happened at our Boston reunion in 2016 that have really impacted his business. 2 different conversations. One was with a gentleman named Harrison Beecher. Harrison's been on our podcast, and he's from Washington, D.C. Harrison talked about throwing client parties and what that looks like. We'll get into that here in a minute. The other thing was a conversation that Ryan had with James Nellis. Now, if you've listened to our podcast, you know James has been on like 5 or 6 podcasts, and he's in charge. He's can be abrupt sometimes. He's the guy who likes to embrace the awkward. And James was hearing from Ryan that there's some investment opportunities in Dayton that James wasn't able to experience that same type of cash flow or return in Washington, D.C. So they were able to actually make a deal happen, and James bought an investment property that Ryan dug up for him. So let's talk about real estate investing and what that's like in a town like Dayton or a city like Dayton versus some other areas in the U.S. that might be a little bit more appreciated. What was the benefit that you, or the value proposition that you shared with James, and why did he decide to invest in Dayton?
Yeah, so I always tell people, if you're looking in like a big city, you're mostly looking in the appreciation play. That's not Dayton, Ohio by any means. We're below a mid-major city. We do have Wright-Patt Air Force Base, which is the biggest Air Force base in the country, but we're a play on of high cap rates and high cash return on your investment. So if you're looking for a property that's really going to cash flow, you're going to get a check every month, Dayton, Ohio is a great place to come. We've got a lot of great small multifamilies, duplexes, triplexes, 4 and 8 units. We don't have a lot of, 64 unit plus properties. They are available, but it's really easy to get into some duplexes and some 4 units quickly. And, we're seeing cap rates in the 8, 9, and even 10 very regularly. This last 6 months has been pretty difficult just because everybody's wanting a piece of the pie, but the cash return is in the low teens as well. So I won't invest in a property if it's lower than 11% cash return on investment, which is almost impossible to find in most markets. But I have a floor of 8% on my cap and 11 to 12% on my cash return. Just matters how good the deal feels. But if it starts getting lower than 11, I'm really looking into it, and I probably won't buy it, and I probably won't advise my clients to buy it. We'll see a little appreciation over the years, but for the most part, we're looking to get that property paid down and just cash flow it over the years.
I love all of that. Everybody knows that I specialize in the sale of multifamily property here in Denver, and I love the topic of real estate and investing. The mission at Calibrate Real Estate is we exist to help people create generational wealth through real estate. And I think it's awesome that you're able to network with a buddy at a conference in Boston. James is in Washington, D.C. You're in Dayton, Ohio. You go hang out up in Boston, and you're like, let's do a deal together. Let's find a way. And you're able to sell him one of the properties that you've got there in Dayton, and he's able to make great return. For those that may have heard a few of those terms and calculate cap rate, it's a very common question, and it's not a bad question. So real quick, just 101 is net operating income is just figured out by taking your gross revenues subtracted by your expenses besides a loan. So it's your pre-debt return is basically the way to look at that. So NOI divided by your purchase price is just very simply your cap rate. And that would be the return that you would have if you own the building free and clear on an annual basis. So typically in Denver, we see maybe 6 caps, but it's more like 5% cap rates,
Yeah.
which is a fairly nominal return. When you think of the appreciation rate in certain areas, as well as inflation, is anywhere between 3 and 4% on inflation on an annual basis. And then, appreciation rates in certain areas can be somewhere between, 5 and 15%, depending on what type of market you're in. You can pretty quickly have a good investment in an appreciating market if you catch it at the right time. But a cash flowing investment, something that spins off a lot of great cash, may not appreciate as rapidly, but you're going to get great monthly cash flow. And that's what you're able to experience in Dayton, which I think is awesome. The second part of that discussion is this power of a mastermind. You get together with Harrison, and obviously you see him do a presentation about throwing client events. Let's talk about what your client events were like before that presentation in 2016 and how you've changed them now.
My client events were pretty much non-existent. So I had never thrown one, and then I was like at random, I was like, hey, let's do a buyer's class where we invite people that we know that we're thinking about buying. We'll buy them dinner, we'll sit them down, we'll talk to them. And I'm like, everybody will come because we're buying them free dinner and drinks. Like, it will be super easy. And we rented out this little room in a restaurant, and no one showed up. I mean, we had literally 0 people show up. It was like kind of demoralizing a little bit, because we had we didn't really know what we were doing. We just thought, hey, people will come if we call them and stuff. So it was definitely a reality check when I was like, man, I thought definitely at least a dozen was going to come, in my mind. That's what I thought. And so I go to Boston, which was perfect timing for me because I was a little lost in real estate. I had grown so much 3 years in a row. I didn't really know what was the next step. And, Harrison went up on stage, and, he's a really fun guy to listen to. He's just full of energy, great ideas, and he's so willing to just give you any kind of advice, because I talked to him after it as well. And he talked about client parties, and the only thing I really took from it was the big thing was just go big with it. I mean, if you're going to do it, don't do it small, just do it really big. So I came back and I talked to my assistant, and I said, hey, let's have a client party, like an end of the year party, invite people, and we'll do free food, open bar. It's at a bowling alley with this VIP area with a DJ and everything. And we had like $5,000 in raffle prizes for kids. And it was elaborate. And we had like 100-some people come. When they started walking through the door, we were so excited. Had professional photographer there taking pictures for everybody. It was great. So then this year we had it again, and 208 came. So we had 100 people come because they saw the pictures from the year before, and they're like, man, I can't miss this. And people were asking to bring their friends and everything. In between there, we had investment seminars, and we had, I think, 60-something people come to the first one, and then 50-something come to the next one. We've had 3 now. It's been great because you're really providing value to people. We're paying for their dinner, drinks, and it's a great night out, and they're learning. But this next year, we're going to hold our client party. We're already starting to plan it, and it's the end of January of this next year. And we're planning on about 400 to 500 people showing up, because we're going to, for the first time, let them bring 2 to 3, maybe 4 friends, just depends on who it is. But what we're going to do is we're going to cater to our clients in front of their friends. So when they come in, they walk in the door, they're instantly going to get like a goodie bag, and they're going to go off to a different section and get like their picture taken, and, get put their tickets in the raffle prizes for their kids and all stuff. And then their friends are going to here's a drink, wait for your friends. And then here's a smaller raffle. And if you want to be a part of this, you might want to buy a house from us. But we're going to still show them a great time. They're going to have bowling and drinks and food, and they're going to everything. But their friend that's our client is going to be VIP, essentially what it is. So we're going to allow them to come. We're going to have to rent the whole bowling alley out and the VIP area. So my mom doesn't know this yet, but she's going to be the one planning the whole thing. We're going to hire her because she's retired and stuff, but we're going to have her plan the whole thing. But what's great about this whole thing is, and my agents on my team will say the same thing, 2 years ago, when I saw a client in a grocery store or anywhere I kind of felt awkward around them. I just collected a nice size check from them. I thought I did a good job, but I still didn't feel like, like a bond between us. Well, they came to these parties, these investment seminars. We had a charity event for the tornado relief, and you're seeing these people, you're having drinks with them, you're talking about personal experiences with them. Now I feel like part of their family. There's a bond. Very often I get a hug in the grocery store from someone that I see that's a past client now. I just have no problem calling them up and saying, hey, I know you live around the street from this new listing I got. Do you know anybody that's looking to buy it? I have no problem calling my clients now because we're on such a closer basis. I mean, we're actually truly friends now, and it's because I'm not the only one that's taking. I'm giving to them throughout the year, and I have no problem calling now because I've given them such good experiences and providing value that I feel okay to call, and my clients or my agents on my team feel comfortable to call as well, which has grown our business referral wise like tremendously. I mean, it's been it's been noticeable how much we've grown it, and everybody feels so much more comfortable around their clients, and they text us all the time like, can't wait for the next one. So and it's all started from, instead of like, oh hey, let's have this small little buyers class, and now let's be very elaborate with our events. And it really doesn't cost you that much for the event. It's just a lot of planning, but you get so much return in it.
Some great takeaways that I have from doing my own client appreciation events with different folks here at Calibrate. We'll get together, we'll create a list of people, and what ends up happening inevitably is, even if your team is 9 agents like you had shared, or our company has 11 people, you get 60 to 120 people in one room. There's no way you can canvas the whole room certainly not at the same time. And there's certain people you're like doing everything you can to get across the room to see them. What ends up happening is your clients start bragging on you with or without you there. And that creates such a solid bond because they start sharing experiences about how you help them buy or sell a house or with an investment property. And that's the best testimony you can get. And then the other part of it too is, one of my agents has said this to me several times about just his friends. He said that, you can tell someone's a friend if you continue to create new experiences with them instead of someone that you may have known at one point where you kind of relive the past with them. And so when you have opportunities to communicate with your client long after a transaction because of these events or because of something real specific where you've added value, then all of a sudden they feel like it's not so strange to talk to you, because we spend all this time working on a deal with someone and then it's done and you're like, what do I talk to him about? There's no topic anymore. And so I think it's really great that you've harnessed that energy within a client appreciation event. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was so cool because the second one was where it was like, it was habit for people. They knew what was going to expect, but then we made it bigger than the year before. And we're going to have more kids prizes next year because we had a couple kids that were a little mad that they didn't get the remote control car that they wanted. But we had a client show up in took my team member's face and put it on a t-shirt and put like best realtor on it. And he showed up with these, like, him and his wife both had Steve Neal, like, and he's like, he's one of the older guys on my team, but like, it just showed up in this shirt and it was so funny. But I mean, that was the best testimonial because we just took a picture with them, and like, this guy went the extra mile to make a shirt with Steve's face on him. Loves Steve. But it's just one of those things that you would never get to laugh about and see just on a normal transaction, or every 5 to 7 years when they call you up to sell their home, but you're seeing them more and more and more. And I mean, we had so many people this year, even though like we didn't say bring friends, like still brought friends, was like, hey, so-and-so's going to be buying soon. Wanted you to meet them. Is that okay if they come? I'm like, yeah, here's some drink tickets, go have fun, so
that's the exact point.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. And like, it was the best thing to hear Harrison say, hey, I've done this and it can be done, so you can go do it too.
Well, and to that point, you had mentioned to me privately that 90% of your business ideas at this point are sort of recycled from other people in different markets. Let's talk about the concept of getting together at a real estate conference, and specifically with our mastermind. And I know not everybody can go to that, but just the idea of like, if you've got a conference that you go to regularly, networking with other people and how you sort of extract those ideas and then make your own, like you said, make them Dayton appropriate, but it's the same concept in some other city.
Yeah, 100%. Harrison, we just had a long conversation, did the client parties, but he also helped me with my buyers and sellers guide. We compared our guides together and we took some from each one of ours. That was fantastic. There was another girl from California and she had a quarterly report that she put out. And I always wanted to do one, but I just didn't like have the image in my mind how I want to do it. And she had this beautiful, like just 2 pages that just opened up, and we pretty much like, not, I would say copied it to a T, but it was, I mean, it's pretty much like 70% like what she did. And we just put our own content in there, made it a little bit more like kind of our style. But for the most part, like that was a great marketing piece that now goes out every quarter. And we stole it from, I think that was the Denver mastermind. And then, but I mean, James, I spend a lot of times with James Nellis, and I use a lot of the things that he does for hiring, marketing wise, a lot of things that he does. But it's just great to be around people. And it's not usually the big things that you take away. It's the small things. It's the one-liners. And definitely you get to be around people that have the same problems as you. I mean, you literally talk about the same problems. Like, oh my gosh, you might be, 1,000 miles away from me, but you have the same problems as I do. And it's nice to be around that. You feel rejuvenated when you get back, but you come back with so many different ideas.
I think the tendency is when you're a real estate agent, you don't necessarily want to share ideas in your hometown because you feel like, okay, you want to differentiate yourself to the nearest competitor and you're trying to obviously build your brand. But when you get outside of your normal market and you're talking to people who are like, there's no way we'll ever compete, you start to then create community around it. And for those of you, you've heard a lot about Harrison Beecher. If you want to listen back to that episode, it's episode 35 of the Calibrate Real Estate podcast. You can just put that in Google or an Apple podcast. So there's a lot to be learned. And that's why I do this podcast, is I have the ability to interact with you here. I'm in Denver, you're in Dayton, and we can exchange ideas, and maybe we can make another deal happen because we're exchanging ideas together. I've had countless transactions that have happened because of either a referral or a connection to an attorney that I got from someone else. And it's just incredible.
Well, what's great about it too is, I'm not trying to butt in, but today I just gave a referral out of our 30 under 30 group to a guy in St. Petersburg. And I had met him before. I knew he liked golf. I had a client that's moving there that wants to join a country club in St. Petersburg, wants to buy a place. I was like, oh, he's perfect. I saw him this morning and he was like, Ryan, the guy you set me up with is absolutely fantastic, understands everything I want. So they're going to play golf like this next Thursday or something like that together down in St. Pete. But it's one of those things, you build these relationships, and what if I would have got them with someone that was like a person that doesn't understand anything that he's going through or wants to buy, and he doesn't end up buying, or maybe he buys from an agent that I didn't refer him to. Like, I know that this guy is going to take care of it, and it's someone that I met previously. So
it's a great point. There's a new commercial out by Facebook that's on the TV that talks about Facebook groups, and the musical thing behind it is the Walking in Memphis song by Mark Knopfler. And the whole point is like, it's people that have moved from Memphis that want to still stay connected to Memphis, or people who are new to Memphis, and they're just exchanging all these ideas and talking about how good it makes them feel. There's so many closed real estate groups that you can join. If you're not a 30 under 30, the YPN group is phenomenal to exchange referrals, to exchange ideas, to say, look, I've got this problem with a buyer's agent, or I really need to work on my seller guide, whatever those things are. Just throw them out to a group like that and you'll get constant feedback. It's phenomenal. It's really, really great. So I would say, just because you may not have access to a certain group, there are other groups out there. Again, the NAR YPN group is a wonderful one to join. I think it's important to also share that independent brokerages, I think, have a very good way of helping each other, because inherently a little bit smaller, and you tend to have some more frankly, some more intimate conversations. What's it like working at Irongate? What caused you to come to Irongate, and how did you get your career started? It's kind of a big question, but going from, start to being a 30 under 30 and beyond, what was the beginning of your career like, and how did you find Irongate?
Okay. First off, I graduated college from University of Kentucky, and after that, I moved to Louisville. Literally like 3 days after I graduated, I worked for Anheuser-Busch, and thought that was going to be great. They're like, "You're going to work like selling to the bars and do all these kind of sales." I'm like, "Man, this is me fantastic." I worked for a cool company, and it was the furthest thing from cool. And I got paid absolutely nothing. I had really good sales numbers, and I just was paid nothing. And the ceiling was so low. I come from a real estate background. My dad's been in real estate for 40 years, and he's actually one of the guys that owns Irongate Realtors, him and another partner. And I was talking to my dad, and he was like, "Ryan, if you do this many hours and you do it in real estate, you're not going to have to worry about money." And I'm like, "Okay, now I'm listening." So I made this really big sale, and the truck driver dropping off the alcohol made more money on that sale than I did. So I quit the next day, was in real estate class the next week, and I was on my way to being a realtor. So I really would say I didn't have a choice on which brokerage I was going to join, since I didn't want to make Thanksgivings very awkward. But yeah, so I came here, but it is a great company, very local feeling. Dayton is a local place where we still talk to our neighbors and everything. So Irongate is perfect for me, for the area. But I came back, got my license in 2013, and didn't know what I was doing at all. I mean, really didn't know what I was doing. But my dad, like honestly, his only thing he really told me was just do something. And so I had to figure out what that was. So I started watching videos. I was listening to podcasts. I mean, consumed everything. And I found out that if you pound the phones and do a ton of open houses, you'll get in front of people and you'll talk to people. So I did 2 open houses every weekend in the same kind of area, and I called every expired, and really got my career started that way. Got so busy that I needed to hire an assistant after like 2 years. And I hired her in the first 10 days. We sold like 17 homes because we were both running around. So then like 2 months later, I hired my first buyer's assistant, and my team just started to grow organically. I've never recruited one time. I've never made one recruiting call. And, but other than that, I've never recruited, and my business and my team just started kind of taking off through necessity. I didn't know I wanted a team, and I really didn't know what I was doing when I started my team, and really learned over time what my dream team would be instead of someone else's team. I always thought it was, when I first started building a team, I started taking ideas from other people that were in the area, but there's really no team that fits my needs or fits, what I think truly we can do for clients. So this last couple of years has really been great, because I've been building it the way I've wanted to build my team instead of how I thought it was supposed to be built. But I'm really excited about the next 5 to 10 years in real estate.
Well, I think a lot of people hire by necessity, and it sounds like you got to that point. You got so busy, you're like, I got to hire someone. I need someone to help me with the administrative parts of my business. When someone's a lone wolf agent, when do you think that point is, either from a GCI standpoint, a production volume standpoint? And I've heard a lot of different thoughts about this. We didn't really prepare for it. But when do you think it makes sense to make that first hire? And then the next question is, when does it make sense to make the second hire? And who are those two roles in your mind?
Yeah. So I hired someone. I actually didn't really like real estate that much the first couple of years. I knew what I was doing after 2 years, but I didn't really like it that much, because it didn't feel like that fulfilling to me. I just was like, I'm making good money, so let's just roll. I started losing weight. I didn't have any time. I was working 16-hour days, 15-hour days, running around, not enough hours in the day. And I finally looked at my dad, and I was like, I need an assistant. I was kind of like joking. He's like, yeah, you do. Like, dead just cold. Yeah, you do. And I'm like, oh, because he usually turns me down on most of my ideas. So when I was like first starting, but he was like, yeah, I know you do. And there was a girl that was at our office. Her name was April, and she doesn't work for me anymore, but she was hands down the best hire I've ever had, and we're still great friends. And but she came on board and as part-time, but she was already licensed, which was great, because I needed someone to be able to do my paperwork and show houses for me at the same time when I was out showing houses to someone else. And about 2 weeks into it, she was like, Ryan, this wasn't the deal. I would like still have a family and everything. We need to hire another person. And I'm like, kind of just like shaking. I'm like, well, how do I even do that? Well, there's another guy down the hall. His name was Steve, and he was a former Marine, and I had started to already give him deals anyways. So I talked to him, and he was like, yeah, I'm in. I would feel like it's the right time to hire when your quality of life, you feel like you can't control your quality of life. I wasn't happy. I really wasn't. And I wasn't happy, and I was working way too much. I was, losing weight, like I said. And when your quality of life comes down, and where the moment I added her, she paid for herself instantly. So me personally, I would never hire an assistant that wasn't licensed, just where I'm at, to where they can go run out and show a house for me and everything. And then, so I made sure my last two assistants have been licensed, and they end up, transferring into my team as just agents once they build up a little bit. But for the first buyer's agent, I just found someone that I could really trust. And it was when my assistant and I were so busy that it was taken away from me listing houses, which was what I wanted to do, which was list homes. I was like, why am I showing this cold lead that came in 10 houses in the next 2 days when I could be doing other things that are lead generating for me to list homes? So Steve started taking those. I started giving him cold leads, taking half the commission. And I'm like, wait, I didn't do anything and I just got half of this. I'm like, this is pretty cool. And then there was another girl that came and she transferred over, and I was mentoring her, and she was a friend. And I was like, wait a second, why am I mentoring her? Why don't you just come on my team and I'll mentor you there, and I can still make some money off you too. So that's where it just kind of grew. But we were so busy. I think people, before they're even too busy, they are like, hey, I'm going to start a team, because that's what they think everybody needs to do. Like, I have a twin brother, and he does $7 to $10 million a year in sales, which is in Dayton, it's just a ton. But he does it no assistant, no team. And I don't think everybody's built to have a team. I don't think everybody should have a team, because it's crazy how much extra work it is. You are truly a manager once you do that. But for me, it ended up being my why. Like I said, I didn't like real estate in the first 2 years. Well, once I started having my team, I realized that I wanted to do the best for them, to put them in the best possible position to make the most money possible, to do the best with their life as possible. I'm a single guy with no kids. So I was like, man, what was my why? And the moment I figured that out, it was them. It really, really took off for me. But to go back to your question, for the most part is when you just feel that you're completely tapped out, and I would do it before you're completely tapped out, and just so it's easier to implement things. And then that first buyer's agent, I would just find it out of necessity, and start them in slow with just complete cold leads instead of your really good ones.
Yes, I love that. I love the idea that when you start to assemble a team and you start to put a team together, that really becomes your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It really becomes an amazing opportunity to impact and improve the lives of others. And I completely agree. Sitting here with now 11 people working with me, it's just really cool to be able to impart some wisdom, to hear some of their wins, to share in some of the sorrows of some of their losses. You just get to live life together and do business, and it's phenomenal. It's not for everybody. There is some drama certainly that's associated with it, but it's a very cool opportunity. It is.
There's way more things that I see benefit from for me than there's firing, there's hiring, there's personal drama with people, there's people getting sick, there's people, family members die, and, things that I never thought I was going to have to do. This last month, I did things for my team that I answered questions that I thought I never was going to have to do. No book ever taught me how to deal with this. I sat back in a chair, looked at my dad, and I was like, I had no idea that you were dealing with some of this crap when we were at Little League Baseball and you were coaching me. I didn't know you were dealing with some of this stuff. So, but for the benefit though, the girl that I hired now for my assistant, she's been with me for 18 months, and she was a manager at a Foot Locker, and she was making $30,000 a year. I went to high school with her, and I was like, man, come over and work for me. you'll definitely do better than that. You're such a hard worker. And I think first year in the business, first calendar year, she made like 75,000. So taking someone that made 35 to 75,000, which no person in her family's ever made more than like what she said, like 40 grand, you changed someone's whole life. I mean, when you double someone's salary, that is completely changed. And she's going to surpass that this year. And she's just doing fantastic. That she told me, she texted me, she's like, almost paid off my student loans, paid off my car the other day. Like, that's life changing. And that's what, like, I'm like, okay, like that's what gets me up in the morning, and it feels good because you're like, okay, if I keep grinding, then, you just help that person. So like, a girl on my team just bought her first home. And so that's really, she was all excited. Everybody was excited for her. And it's just fun to see, instead of just being an individual agent where you're just kind of grinding for yourself. That's where I really fell in love with real estate, was the moment I started the team.
We are kindred spirits. A few of the things we do around Calibrate, we pay for all of our staff members to go through Financial Peace University, which teaches people how to handle their personal finances, a class that every single high school should teach but doesn't. And what ends up happening is someone comes on board and they're making a decent salary. That all of a sudden they get control of their debt. They get control of their spending. They pay off a bunch of debt. And I've had a bunch of those conversations too, where people are like, I paid off my car, or I sold my motorcycle, or, I paid off my student loan. And we're going to have a podcast actually with my sister here in the future, where she talks about her experience of growing into the position that she's in right now. And a lot of the stuff financially is things that we're not required to teach. This is all extracurricular stuff, but it's so life-changing. And now, like you said, you then have the ability to create that type of income. And then you're doing these investment seminars that your assistant's sitting in on. That changes their lives.
Here's the thing is, one, she's investing with a client right now on a property. And then I have another agent on my team who saw me do flip homes, and I've been pushing him to do one for like 2 years. He finally did one, and he listed at the house today, his first flip. So I've been helping him do his flip, and he's probably going to make like $20,000. And I've been lucky enough to be around in a family that, like, my dad's been in the rehab business, and so he got me into it. And I've been around like the 30 under 30 group, who's very, like, they push each other, and you're kind of keeping up with the Joneses. You're like really just you don't want to come back the next year and say, oh, my business got cut in half. Like, you want to say I grew. So you're trying to keep up with them. But a lot of the people that you're going to hire don't come from a like savvy, how do I make money family or group that they're around. So you have to instill that in them. So you're right. Like, she started coming to these investment seminars. She wants to invest. My guy on my team saw me do rehab houses. Now he's doing them. Well, they're making money from this now. So it's really changing their life.
That is so cool and super rewarding for you, and their lives are impacted. Okay, so that's a lot of the success. Let's talk about the blooper reel. Let's talk about the clangers you've made. Let's talk about some of the mistakes that you've made. We've all made mistakes on our road to success. And I think a lot of people, especially when you're young, you get bent out of shape, like, oh, I did it wrong, or I should have known that. And I see this with my kids all the time. But how have you learned how to manage failure and making mistakes? And what do you do, especially as you're coaching your team, to help your team through that process now? Because maybe you've learned how to manage those things, but then for younger folks that you're working with, how do you help them through some setbacks?
So we have a weekly meeting, and a lot of that stuff is we go over what we're seeing in the field for the week. So if someone made a mistake, we make sure that mistake comes out. So if someone did something wrong with checking the wrong box on a contract, or we're seeing something that's new coming up, we want to make sure that if one person made a mistake, that was the only person on our team. We don't make them feel bad about it or anything like that. We just say, hey, listen, and usually I'll turn it on myself and say, hey, I made this mistake, and this is what we do to fix it. But, I'm okay with making mistakes. I'm okay with spending money on things that might not work, because I would say if I spend money on 4 things, probably one of them really works. I mean, if I really dive deep into it, probably one of them works. But I've got to make sure that I used to not audit as much as I did now, but I make sure that I know where the leads are coming from, what my conversion rate is, and how much money I'm making off things. I think learning from I really didn't know if I was making money or not. Well, like breaking even isn't making money. I can stay at home and not make any money. So I stopped, I really saw that, you know, for hiring, and if you are building a team, one of the hardest things to do, hiring is easy. If you start selling homes and people see it, I probably get a call every 3 days when one to join my team, and we turn pretty much everybody down unless they're like absolutely perfect for our culture. I don't care if you sell $10 million in sales. If you're not good for our culture, you're out. And I made that mistake 3 or 4 times where I brought people in that were not very good. They were, part-time, or they weren't all in, and they didn't fit culture-wise. And it really hurt our team because they didn't, A, feel comfortable around everybody, or B, well, if I'm working so hard and this person's not working hard, why do they get the same benefits? So that was a problem that I had to solve. And really that came down to letting people go. And that was the hardest thing for me, was to, essentially fire someone. I guess that's the term, was firing someone. And when I started letting people go, and it actually helped our culture, we ended up making more sales, but I definitely I kept people on way too long. Way too long. And I know that now. And then, we had another person that was, culturally not fitting in, and, they were a friend, and it was hard for me to let them go. But we just weren't seeing eye to eye on anything, but I just try to keep her around, but it ended up hurting our culture. And, actually went to our, seminar, and, we had the one guy talking about, basically, if it doesn't make you happy or it's adding stress, you need to get rid of it. And so letting that person go it made our conversations in our weekly meetings easier, and my stress level went down. So holding on to people longer, no one's bigger than the team. No one's bigger than your success or your happiness or anything like that. So that was definitely a big mistake. But I had never done it before. I'm a new team leader that has no real guidance. I'm like one of the only teams at my company. So it's a learning process, and I'm okay with it. I'm definitely okay with making mistakes. But I also have no problem making, mistakes, because real estate's a risky business, and, it can turn at any time. So, being cautious because you've made mistakes is okay. I'm okay with making mistakes because I've learned from them each time. But if I keep making mistakes and just keep making them over and over and over, it's going to cost me money. But, every time I've made a mistake on, hiring the wrong person or hiring a service that's wrong, there's a reason. I didn't look into it, or I got too excited. So it's constantly a process. But I feel like in the last 6 to 8 months, my team has really, come together culturally. They're, always spending time with each other, and which is great. And then I feel like our systems and processes really come together, and what we're spending our money on and what we're going to spend money on in the future. But we didn't really audit anything beforehand. We kept people around for too long. It was just it was just a young team, and people on my team were young too. So yeah.
Well, and teams will evolve, but I think the things that I like to hear you talk about is that you're studying your numbers, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at your return on investment as it relates, maybe not necessarily to people, and we can go there. And of course, you want someone to be hired and they're going to produce more than it costs to have them on salary. But when it comes to either marketing objectives or things that you're interested in trying out, I think it's important to be realistic in that if this is something that's brand new, you may lose money on it. It may be something that you're experimenting, and you can kind of cap what that experiment is like. If it's something that you've done multiple times, you now have an expectation of a certain ROI. And so what are some of the things that you found tactically in your day-to-day that give you the most ROI in your business? We talked about your client event. I imagine that that's probably one of the big things, but what are some other things you're like, man, I just know that from all of the feedback that I get, these are the things that are working really well to generate leads, to build the business as it relates to marketing?
Yeah, so we recently hired a marketing team. It's a 3-person team. One guy does photography, and not talking houses, of us, photography of us, and I guess out in the field. One does video and edits, and another guy does our social media and everything. We found in the last, we hired him 6 months ago. we went all in with these people. I mean, it wasn't like hiring some discount guy with a camera. I mean, it was scary. It was all in. It's a big check per month. We started going, and you guys, anybody can check out my like Facebook page or my Instagram, and you'll see the videos on there. They're really high quality. I mean, ridiculously high quality videos, and we started putting them out to everybody and really targeting our friends and paid ads like to our friends, to our clients, to a particular area. I've sat at dinner and had my waitresses come up to me and say, "Hey, you're that realtor that's always on my news feed. And then I've had people that come up to my mom or my dad and be like, "Man, your son and your team is everywhere. And those videos look great." And we have videos of our client parties and everything. So I feel like what we were doing beforehand, maybe it was an insecurity thing, but we weren't out to people as much. I was young and I was, a little bit nervous, I would say. But now I feel like my stats can back anything up really. And, we're out to everybody now. It used to be like, hey, we just got referrals and we, had some Zillow leads and we did a few other things, but now we're making sure that if we list a home, everybody knows it. And we're making sure that everybody in the area knows about our team and that we have like the highest quality stuff. And the reason we hired someone that did these videos that were so high quality, we wanted everybody to feel that, like they're hiring a team of people that they're just going to get a better service. So everything's just so high quality, but people have noticed with our branding, I'll be out at the golf course that I play at and people were like, "Hey man, congratulations on your team. That's awesome that you formed one." I'm like, "Yeah, I did 3 years ago." But they just noticed now because I've started to put these videos out and really started to do it. But we're getting people calling us and getting things from Facebook and everything because of this marketing, of this branding. One other thing that I noticed was I made every person on my team get in front of a camera. That's scary for them. I mean, almost every one of them, definitely all the girls on my team were pissed. I mean, they were mad at me. They were legit mad. They did it for the first time and the videos came out. They looked great. They sounded great. They were getting compliments from all their friends. Well, now they're the professional. We had to figure out a way to make sure every person that was on their friends list and their client list thought of them as the absolute professional. So our videos make sure that it does that. I mean, it is their quality, and they talk about our experiences. We talk about, maybe some talking points and everything, but we make sure that everybody is the absolute professional. So we're starting to see a lot more referrals come in through that branding and a lot of random phone calls that are like, "Hey, come list me." We're starting to get those because people are seeing those videos. It's hard to, you know, directly know the return, but we've seen the return. So it's pretty simple. Then the client parties, we're seeing a lot more referrals there. We shifted 18 months ago from bringing everything like online to our website and Zillow and realtor.com leads and all these cold leads that we used to do. We shifted. We just made a pact with everybody. We said, this is going to be the year of the referral. That was 2018 was the year of the referral. So everything we did was based off of getting referrals, and it's absolutely just changed our business. And it was through, branding, making sure people knew that we were the absolute professionals, and the parties, and making sure we're on top of mind with our clients. We still do Zillow leads. We still do realtor.com. We sold a lot of open houses. But other than that, for the most part, it's referrals and getting those people to notice us more than, everybody has 3 agents that they know. How can they put the trust in us and say, "Hey, listen, you're the absolute professional over anybody else"? And that was our marketing team that we hired. We really do feel that we're portraying our brand better than anybody else in the Dayton area. That's hands down. I've had people come up to me that are big time agents. They're like, "Man, that looks really good," but they're just not willing to write the check, which is, I know that I'm getting my ROI back, 10 times.
All right, let's break this down a little bit. You didn't talk about it specifically. What is that check? How much do you pay for this service per month? You don't have to say what the service is. I get that. Yeah. But what's the cost of it? And as you're thinking about this as a business owner and as an entrepreneur, how long would you have cut that check, scratched that check for before you said, "Look, this is no longer working"? What was your, your trial period that you were willing to try this out for? Because that is a big risk.
Yeah. So I'll just go ahead and break exactly down what I'm paying for. And I want to put this in perspective. We're in Dayton, Ohio. My average sale price is $160,000. Taxes, brokerage split, everything, I'm probably bringing home $3,800, $4,000 on a deal. So put that into perspective where you're at in your market. The videographer will edit. I think it's 4 hours of video, and he'll shoot for about 3 hours per month. But it's all one time, and that's $1,000. And it's professional. I mean, it's top notch. The photographer's there at the same time too, so that's in that lump sum. And then I spend about $1,750 a month on. We do a one-on-one consultation with every one of our agents for 45 minutes. They get a 45-minute consultation with our marketing expert that does social media and branding. And so he goes on what we're going to do for the month. And then we have a 3-hour mastermind with everybody on our team. We sit around and we go over what our marketing strategy for the month is and how we're going to post things and plan our posts and plan our video posts and you know what we're going to do for our events and everything like that. So we have a 3-hour mastermind and he's heading that. And then he also runs all of our ads and retargets everybody, and he's really good at it too. So we're spending anywhere from like $2,500 to $3,000 a month on our marketing team. And I think about 600 of that is ad spend. So $2,000 to $2,400 in labor and then 600 in ad spend. And it's definitely worth it. But it's one of those things where if you're going to have a team, you've got to provide some value. And my value is I have a new agent that comes on my team, like newest one, her name is Ruthie, and she's never done real estate before. She's joined January 1st, and she looks like the absolute king or queen on social media. I mean, she's taken to it so well, and we never said, that she's a new agent. She came on, we branded her so well as the veteran, a lot of experience with staging and everything. And, it's been great. So new agents hit the ground running very quickly on our team, and other teams, other people notice it, and we're getting a lot of people try to join our team because of it. It's just an added service that we provide. But overall, 36,000 for the year, and that's a full. It's like you're hiring a full-time employee, but it is 100% worth it. I couldn't figure out how to get past 175 deals a year, 150 deals a year. At one point, you're gonna get tapped out. You've got to figure out how to be everywhere, and that is my play, to be everywhere.
See, I love that last point. The best part about video is that people can watch it at whatever time they want to. And what I have found doing podcasts, I've done 2 different types of podcasts, interviewing realtors and real estate professionals in the Calibrate Real Estate podcast. My first one was called the Kyle Malnati Show, where I interviewed my clients, real estate investors. And the coolest thing there is that I was having the same exact conversation that I'd have with someone over coffee, over lunch, over dinner, or standing out in front of a property. I was like, look, this is silly. These are becoming scripts where obviously I'm relating to someone. I'm not like a robot, but I'm having the same conversation 1,000 times one-on-one. Let's have this conversation and promote it and get it out there. And that's going to show people that are maybe interested in working in that particular part of the industry that I'm an expert. Obviously there's other experts, but if I can display myself as the go-to person, they're going to know when it's time to buy an investment property, contact me or contact someone at my company. And I think it's really, really smart.
It's been amazing. When I started holding the investment seminars, it was great. And I had a couple posts about it, but then I hired this marketing team and I had investment seminars. We made videos about it. We showed the whole event. There's probably 100 people that know more than me about investment properties in the Dayton area, but I'm the absolute expert online right now. I have more people call me and text me that are my past, my high school friends, college friends, past clients. Hey, see, you're crushing it in the rental properties. I mean, I have like 44 units. I mean, it's not like I have 1,000 or anything like some people have, but people that I held an investment seminar. So I was in front of people, I was teaching. So they're saying, hey, that's the expert right there. social proof, and then I'm posting these videos about them. But like people are coming to me and I can definitely guide them in the right way. But like they were, before I even felt like an expert, they were coming to me and telling me that I was an expert because one, I was on video, and two, I was in front of people.
Super smart. Okay, last question. It's the question we reserve for every one of our guests. It's this idea of dear younger me. You're writing yourself a letter as a 22-year-old. It's the advice that you wish you knew when you were 22. What would you share with yourself now that you've had some experience, now that you've had some accolade, with that younger version of yourself that was working at Anheuser-Busch right before you started working in real estate? What type of advice would you give to someone in their early 20s that's looking at real estate as this big, confusing business? And what type of advice could you impart to them, Ryan?
I wrote a few things down because I think this is probably the most important question, hands down. First off is when you're a new agent, you can become an expert in 6 months, or you can become an expert in 5 years. There's some people on my team that have been here for 3 years that know as much as the person that's been here for six months, so you can consume as much information as you want and as quickly as you want in this world. You have Kyle's podcast, you have 1,000 different podcasts, different books. You can consume as much and you can become an expert. And when you become an expert, that breeds confidence and that breeds sales. So I try to take in as much information as the start, but I thought I could probably take in more if looking back. Then if something doesn't make you happy, real estate will kill you. Like real estate will kill you. If it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Like if someone on your team doesn't make you happy, get rid of them. If you're doing some part of sales that doesn't make you happy, like at one point you're gonna have to do something, but like if it doesn't make you happy, like I used to think being first at the company was like the biggest thing ever in the world. Then I realized, I was like, man, why not just be like grateful for what I'm doing right now and being like grateful for all my clients that I have. And, if that comes, great. But like that mind shift has maybe so much more at peace with myself and happy. So if it doesn't make you happy, I would just pitch it and try to find something else in it, because like I really enjoy investment properties. So that's what I'm really focusing on that a lot. And then finally, I wish I would have took my client list seriously for the first 3 years in business. Like I have clients that I completely lost. Like I don't know where their information is and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I wish from the moment I started, I was doing parties, I was doing events. I don't care if 5 people show up. Like if 5 people show up and they have a great time, they're going to tell you they had a great time. Like I wish I would have took care of my client list the first 3 years like I'm taking care of this past 2, because I would have probably twice the business that I have right now if I would have took care of those first 3 years.
I love that, because you recognize something that you weren't doing well and you made a change. And the word calibrate is all about how can we iterate? How can we, we had this result and it wasn't quite the result we wanted. How can we improve it? How can we get to the better result and be systematic about it? And, anything that you're frustrated about that's happened over the past 6 months or 12 months, you can start your year today. You can restart your year and say, you know what? We're in July, we're in the middle of the year. And you know what? I didn't like the first 6 months of the year. I'm going to recommit and I'm going to do it differently. Or you could have, I'm having a fantastic year, and it's not about my personal production. It's like, what can we do to make the next 6 months even better? What went really well and what can we lean into? And I love that you reflected on that. You really didn't focus in on your database as well as you should have. And you lost track of a lot of people, and you said, not anymore. This is going to be the lifeblood of our business. And I think that's really smart. Ryan, this has been such a great time to reconnect. We see each other at least once a year, but it's so fun to just dig into your business and understand more information. If someone needs to do a referral, someone's got someone that's moving into the Dayton area and they want to get in touch with you, what's a great way to find your team online?
Yeah, it's RyanGillenTeam.com. Gillen is Gillen. You can look up through us, and you can fill something out on there. It's super simple. You can follow us on Instagram, Ryan.Gillen. There's Ryan Gillen Team as well, Instagram handle. But you honestly shoot us a message. You can shoot me a personal message on Instagram anytime. If you have any questions on what I said, I have no problem. There's so many people that have helped me in my 6 years in real estate. I have no problem telling you exactly what I've been doing. I mean, there's really no secrets at all. So.
The best in our industry are the people who are willing to share. And thank you for saying that. So for our podcast producer, Kayla Davis and I, if you loved this episode with Ryan Gillen, please give it a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That's the area that we focus in the most. And Ryan can be, again, he's going to be one of those folks that you're going to continue to hear about as you see his Instagram feed and as you see all the stuff that they're doing online. So keep track of Ryan Gillen in Dayton, Ohio. And as I love to say, we will see you around the neighborhood. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.